Chapter 2101. After Qin Yiru knew that Yun Jian was not the real Yun Jian, she did not force her to do anything anymore. However, a girl's reputation was very important. Even if Yun Jian already had CE, even if she was not the real Yun Jian. At least, in Qin Yiru's opinion, she did not want to be gossiped about. In the countryside, no matter how the elderly treated you when they were alive, if you were calculative after they passed away, you would be the one who would be gossiped about. Lu Lanhua did not die of illness. Yun Gang was being hunted down by the people who lost the gamble 2 years ago. He had been on the run for 2 years and his debt from the loan sharks had grown. Yun Gang had left Longmen City and Zhe Province to hide from the loan sharks for 2 years. He had returned to Longmen City this time to repent and take his old mother away from here to start a new life. He did not expect the loan sharks to rush to his door to collect the debt when they learned of his return. Both parties had a dispute and Lu Lanhua had taken a stab for Yun Gang when one of them stabbed him in the heart. The loan sharks were afraid of a life after all, so they fled in fright when they saw Lu Lanhua taking a stab for Yun Gang. Yun Jian did not feel anything even when she heard this. Lu Lanhua's death didn't bring her any sadness. Yun Jian, on the other hand, only looked at where Yun Yi was not far away. She saw her brother Yun Yi's blank expression, obviously sorrowful. It was not hard to understand. Lu Lanhua favored boys over girls and scoffed at Yun Jian and Qin Yiru, but she was really good to Yun Yi. From the original owner's memories, Lu Lanhua had saved a few days' worth of food for Yun Yi just to buy a piece of meat for him to eat. She wanted to eat something good, so she could save a few days' worth of food for him. To Yun Jian and Qin Yiru, Lu Lanhua was detestable, but to Yun Yi, she was also a good grandmother who had been very kind to her. People were like this. Even if a person treated you badly, that person would still have people they wanted to treat well, and they would also have their own circle of life. Yun Jian could not help sighing. Of course, Yun Jian could not restrain Yun Yi and make Yun Yi not feel sad after Lu Lanhua's death like her. Everyone's way of life was different, and outsiders treated them differently as well. Yun Jian would not restrain anyone from hating someone she detested. There was only one thing she could do. If anyone bullied her, she would pay them back 100-fold. She would not interfere with how the person who bullied her treated others. Coming back to reality, Yun Jian stared at Yun Yi, who was wiping his tears in silence for 2 seconds before asking Qin Yiru, "Does Mom want me to go?" "Yes." Not because of anything else, but because of Qin Yiru's words, Yun Jian agreed. Early on Saturday morning, around 4 in the morning, Yun Jian did not have time to go for her morning exercise. She took the car back to Xinjiang town with Qin Yiru and Yun Yi. This time, Qin Yiru had already gotten Gu Yunjian's permission to send Lu Lanhua back. Gu Yunjian was a soldier and was extremely righteous. Naturally, he would not be calculative about this. When sending the deceased up the mountain to be buried, they usually had to wake up early. When Yun Jian and the other two arrived at Xinjiang town, it was already past 6 in the morning. Lu Lanhua's relatives and friends were all there. There were many banquets set up in front of her house. For happy events and funerals in the countryside, they would hold banquets and invite relatives and friends from all walks of life. When Yun Jian arrived, she saw people she did not know. These people naturally had nothing to do with her. When she arrived, it was already past 6 in the morning. There were many banquets set up in front of Yun Gang's house. Relatives from all walks of life took their seats. The ones who cooked and served the dishes were usually old women from the countryside. Most of them were gossipy women. These gossipy women were talkative, but when it came to crucial moments, their hearts were not bad. Yun Jian also sat on a bench in front of a banquet table. Actually, there were many mourners this morning, but those who truly cried in pain for the deceased were in the minority. Usually, distant relatives only came to eat a sumptuous breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For distant relatives, the funeral banquet was also a happy occasion. When Yun Jian sat down, some of the distant relatives around them noticed Qin Yiru's arrival. "Isn't this Yun Gang's ex-wife, Yiru? Why are you here?" A balding middle-aged man looked at Qin Yiru and asked. There was no hint of sadness from Lu Lanhua's death on his face. She's the child's grandmother after all. I brought the child here to remember her, explained Qin Yiru, who was genuinely saddened by Lu Lanhua's death. Oh. The balding middle-aged man nodded. A middle-aged woman sitting next to the balding middle-aged man glanced at Yun Jian, then asked Qin Yiru, "Sister, this is your daughter. I remember her name is Yun Jian, right?" Then, without waiting for Qin Yiru's reply, the middle-aged woman turned to Yun Jian and asked, "Daughter, why aren't you sad about your grandmother's death?" Once the middle-aged woman asked, the people around them turned to look. However, Yun Jian lifted her head slightly. Her cold eyes moved as she replied indifferently, "Why should I be sad, eh?" Chapter 2102. Yun Jian's words stunned everyone present. The middle-aged woman was also slightly taken aback, then she said, "Isn't she your biological grandmother? Look at your brother, he's so sad that he can't eat. Everyone dies eventually. It's not a bad thing for her to be released early." Yun Jian interrupted the middle-aged woman and picked up her chopsticks to eat the breakfast on the table. Lu Lanhua was despicable, but Yun Jian wasn't worried or happy about her death. After Yun Gang borrowed money from the loan sharks, he ran away for 2 years. Yun Zheng was protected by Yun Jian, but those loan sharks didn't dare to mess with Yun Zheng, so they splashed chicken blood and released snakes to Lu Lanhua's house every day. Yun Jian had killed so many people. To be honest, even when her younger brother was brutally killed by Lang Sha in her previous life, she didn't feel such extreme despair. She only hated herself for not being strong enough. Perhaps she, Yun Jian, was a cold-blooded person. "Oh, little girl, are you cursing your grandmother to die early?" This middle-aged woman was really trying to find a topic. After hearing Yun Jian's words, she immediately raised her voice and spoke loudly enough that everyone at the surrounding tables could hear her voice. Lu Lanhua's group of relatives and friends obviously didn't know Yun Jian's identity. They all thought that Yun Jian was just an ordinary young girl who went to school. "Mom, I'm quite sad about Grandaunt's death. This is her biological grandmother. If she's not sad, isn't she a little too inhumane?" A girl who looked about the same age as Yun Jian sat beside the middle-aged woman. The girl immediately spoke. The grandaunt that the girl was talking about was Lu Lanhua. Without a doubt, this middle-aged woman was the daughter of Lu Lanhua's biological sister, and the girl was the granddaughter of Lu Lanhua's biological sister. They were considered distant relatives. In fact, that was indeed the case. The girl's name was Hong Junhua. She was 17 years old this year and was in high school. This middle-aged woman's name was Chenilan. The bald middle-aged father and son were Hong Junhua's father, Hong Taishan. Yun Jian couldn't find anything related to Hong Junhua's distant relatives in the original owner's memories, but she did find something she heard from Qin Yiru. It was said that Lu Lanhua's sister's daughter, who was also Chenilan's husband, Hong Taishan, had set up a plastic processing factory a few years ago and made a small fortune. Then, he expanded the plastic processing factory and made a big fortune. Now, they had moved to a first-tier city to live. It was said that they had even bought a sports car, which was very high-end. It could be said that he bought a house in a big city, drove a sports car, and lived in a luxurious mansion. Just now, when Hong Taishan talked to Qin Yiru, it was because he wanted to show off in front of his relatives and friends that he had made a fortune. But if he wanted to show off, he had to find someone, right? Hong Taishan started a conversation with Qin Yiru. Of course, before he could finish, his wife, Chenilan, and daughter, Hong Junhua, interrupted him. Chenilan and Hong Junhua were feeling smug, thinking that their family had struck it rich. They had to take advantage of Lu Lanhua's funeral to show off and satisfy their vanity. Only Yun Jian, Qin Yiru, and a few others were sitting with them, so they naturally found a topic to talk about. People from the countryside were most afraid of being bad-mouthed, especially when a girl's reputation was the most important. At least, Qin Yiru cared a lot about it. It couldn't be helped if she was called old-fashioned. Being born in the countryside, her character was nurtured. Hearing Hong Junhua talk about her daughter like that, Qin Yiru could not help standing up and speaking up. Moreover, there were many gossipy women sitting around them. My Xiao Jian isn't that kind of person. She's quite kind. Then she's inhumane. She doesn't know how to be sad when her grandmother passes away. Hong Junhua cut her off with the tone she used in school, which she used to speak in a foreign tone to her classmates. As she spoke, Hong Junhua was smug, thinking that she was different from the country bumpkins around her. She went to a high school in a big city. What she said was not on the same level as the country bumpkins around her. Just as Hong Junhua finished her smug declaration, Yun Jian had the last mouthful of porridge and put the bowl down. Pressing her lips together, there was not a hint of emotion in her eyes as she spoke coldly, "You're right. You're not the only one who said that I'm inhumane, but you're the only one who's still alive after saying so, eh?" Chapter 21:14. As the old lady spoke, she attracted everyone's attention. At this time, the handsome man in his early 30s had already gotten out of the silver-gray super sports car and was walking over quickly. The middle-aged man, who was in his 40s and had a big beer belly and exuded the aura of a middle-aged man, walked towards the handsome man in his early 30s with his feet splayed outwards. Then, under the gaze of a group of people who were attracted over, she hugged the handsome man who was in his 30s. Come, let me introduce you. This is my younger cousin, Zhang Junyi." When Junyi heard that his aunt passed away, he immediately flew back from New York in Country M to show his filial piety. He came late today, but his thoughts have been received, haha. The middle-aged man chuckled as he introduced the handsome man who was in his early 30s to the crowd. Zhang Junyi was of the same generation as Qin Yiru and the middle-aged man. However, Zhang Junyi's mother gave birth to him later, so he was more than 10 years older than Qin Yiru and the middle-aged man. Zhang Junyi's mother and Yun Zhong were biological siblings, so they could be considered close relatives. However, Zhang Junyi's relationship with the Yun family wasn't particularly good, so he rarely came back. At least, in Yun Jian's memories, there was no memory of this person. However, Zhang Junyi and the original owner were technically related by blood, so they could be considered distant relatives. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, someone immediately stood up and asked him, "Little Zhang, is this your younger cousin, the great scientist who made a fortune?" When they heard that Zhang Junyi had made a fortune and that he had gotten out of a silver-gray supercar, the crowd became excited. This silver-gray supercar was obviously more high-end than Chenilan's and Hong Taishan's, so the crowd quickly became excited. Zhang Junyi's supercar was comparable to Yun Jian's Ferrari in terms of appearance. It was hard to tell which car was more expensive. Those who didn't know the industry could only estimate the value of a car based on its appearance. That's right. This kid is extremely rich now. He deals with international business tycoons and peers all day long. Now, he's settled in New York of Country M and even bought an apartment in New York. His net worth is at least tens of millions. The middle-aged man proudly put his arm around Zhang Junyi's shoulder and helped him brag. Zhang Junyi himself didn't look too smug. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the surrounding people were stunned again, and they even let out, oh, sounds of surprise. Zhang Junyi's arrival not only stunned the surrounding people, but even Chenilan, who had been focusing on Yun Jian, also stared at Zhang Junyi. Chenilan hated meeting relatives who were richer than her. She glared at Zhang Junyi so fiercely that her eyeballs almost fell out. Zhang Junyi's cousin, the middle-aged man, had long been displeased with Chenilan's bragging. Now that he saw Chenilan's glare, he cocked his head proudly and said to Zhang Junyi, "Junyi, didn't you recently discover a female corpse with a group of international experts that won't rot? They said that if the research is done well, you can even get a large sum of money. I even took a picture of it. Let's show it to everyone." Zhang Junyi was involved in scientific research. He studied bizarre events that transcended reality. The middle-aged man's words stunned Zhang Junyi. However, Zhang Junyi still took out a photo from his trouser pocket gracefully. The middle-aged man directly snatched the photo from Zhang Junyi and showed it to everyone present one by one. "Look, this is the female corpse that my cousin and the others recently researched. I heard that there are no signs of decomposition even after 3 or 4 years. It's amazing. If my cousin and the experts can research it, they'll probably get a lot of money. Zhang Junyi had once researched something that others couldn't, so he received a lot of money. Now, his family was worth more than tens of millions. He was considered rich in this era. The middle-aged man's words resounded throughout the venue. Hearing this, Zhang Junyi's eyes darkened and he explained, "We haven't started researching this female corpse yet." Before Zhang Junyi could finish, the middle-aged man showed off the photo in front of everyone. The moment the photo flashed before Yunjian's eyes, Yunjian only glanced at it unintentionally. In the photo was a 16-year-old girl. The girl was wearing a light leather jacket and a pair of tight leather pants. The girl's beautiful figure was wrapped in it, and at the tight part of the leather pants, there was a pistol tied to her thigh. One could tell at a glance that the girl's identity was definitely different from ordinary people. She wore a pair of clean flats and was lying on a wooden bed. She looked so peaceful as if she was just in a deep sleep. When Yunjian saw the girl in the photo, she only glanced at her subconsciously. The next second, her eyes darkened and she grabbed the photo. Her sharp eyes moved fiercely as she asked, "Where did you put the girl in the photo?" The girl in the photo was none other than her real self before her rebirth. She was the physical body of slaying God. Chapter 21:15. Yunjian had sent people to look for her physical body more than once, but it was as if she had disappeared from the world in her previous life. There was no news of her at all. Who would have thought that they would find her body in her previous life here? Zhang Junyi was an international scientific researcher. Although he was only in his 30s, Zhang Junyi's grades were quite good when he was in school. Later, he was recommended to study abroad, and he slowly climbed to where he was today. Moreover, he was considered young and promising in this group of people. He was only in his early 30s, but Zhang Junyi had already researched many things that others could not research in their lifetime. In the field of scientific research, if you researched or discovered something new that had a huge impact on a country or even the whole world, then the reward for such a discovery would be enough to provide for you for the rest of your life. Of course, only outstanding people could research or discover new things. Zhang Junyi's brain allowed him to discover many things, and that was how he became rich. Therefore, Zhang Junyi's relatives and friends respectfully called him a great scientist. As for the female corpse in the photo, it was found by someone. When it was found, the female corpse was still lying quietly on the ground. Her cheeks were rosy, and her skin was glossy and elastic. She looked as if she was just in a deep sleep. The person who found the corpse called the female corpse a few times, but there was no response. Therefore, he reached out to check if the female corpse was breathing. In the end, he found that the female corpse was already dead. He was so scared that he quickly called the police. When the person who performed the autopsy came over, he was surprised to find that the female corpse had not decomposed even though she had been dead for 3 to 4 years. Other than the fact that her heart and brain had stopped working, there were no signs of death at all. Normal corpses would start to decompose in less than half a month after death. However, this female corpse had been dead for 3 to 4 years, and there were no signs of decomposition at all. Moreover, the female corpse was not sealed in a huge instrument that would not decompose. In other words, this was a rather bizarre incident. Therefore, in order to ensure the integrity of the corpse, the experts placed the corpse in a tomb that had just been excavated not long ago and guarded it closely. They also prepared to let the researchers gradually study the female corpse in detail in the near future. Ever since the female corpse was found, it had not been studied yet. When Zhang Junyi's cousin found out about this, the middle-aged man wanted to use this matter to show off in front of his relatives and friends. He instantly mentioned that if this research was successful, his cousin would really make a fortune. Therefore, the middle-aged man boasted in front of everyone. After all, they were surrounded by a group of ignorant country bumpkins. It would be best if they were shocked by his boasting. What the middle-aged man did not expect, however, was that Yunjian would snatch the photo from him and ask where the person in the photo was placed when he was bragging about it. The middle-aged man was stunned. He reached out to grab the photo from Yunjian's hand and muttered, "Little girl, what do you know? This is a place that only researchers can enter. Only great scientists like my cousin can enter. Even if you ask, you won't be able to enter. Hurry up and take the photos back." The middle-aged man rolled his eyes in his heart and thought to himself, children these days are really nosy. He just wanted to show off his cousin, Zhang Junyi, in front of his friends and relatives. Who would have thought that a little girl like Yunjian would join in on the fun? The middle-aged man wanted to forcibly take the photo back from Yunjian's hand, but Yunjian moved sideways and avoided the middle-aged man's attempt to take the photo back from her hand. Yunjian turned sideways and looked at Zhang Junyi from the corner of her eyes in front of everyone. Her sharp black eyes sized up Zhang Junyi, and she repeated her words, word by word, "Tell me, where is the girl in the photo?" Chapter 21:16. Looking at Yunjian's focused gaze, the people around them blinked. Qin Yiru was serving the dishes while Yun Yi and Qin Yu were not around. Zhang Junyi, who received Yunjian's gaze, could not help turning to study Yunjian. This girl's gaze was so sharp. This made Zhang Junyi, who did not take Yunjian seriously, look at Yunjian. Just as Zhang Junyi was about to answer, Chenilan, who was already at odds with Yunjian, chuckled in a strange tone. "Yo, hee hee, pretending to know when you don't? I've never seen a girl like you before. Just because you're young, you scolded my daughter, hee hee. You even said that my family's car has low specs, making you look so high and mighty. Now you're poking your nose into other people's research. Why do you always have a part in everything?" Chenilan, who spoke, rolled her eyes at Yunjian in what she thought was a flirtatious manner. However, Yunjian did not mind. She only stared at Zhang Junyi with her gaze that was as sharp as a sword, waiting for his reply. "Junyi, this girl must be out of her mind. Don't bother about her. Just give this photo to her. Come, let's have dinner and drink while we chat." Seeing that Yunjian did not listen to him, the middle-aged man felt embarrassed. He waved at Zhang Junyi as he spoke, wanting to lead Zhang Junyi to one of the banquet tables that had been set up. In Marilena's tomb in Country M, Zhang Junyi did not listen to the middle-aged man or Chenilan. He narrowed his eyes and spoke to Yunjian after the middle-aged man finished speaking. This little girl attracted his attention. "Thank you." Yunjian retracted her gaze and thanked Zhang Junyi before turning to leave. The moment she turned her back to Zhang Junyi, Yunjian's eyes flashed with an imperceptible light. What a strange girl. Zhang Junyi shook his head and laughed as he watched Yunjian walk away. After dinner, everyone returned home. Only a few of Lu Lanhua's closest relatives were still there. After all, Yun Yi had feelings for Lu Lanhua. To Yun Yi, Lu Lanhua was his irreplaceable grandmother. Although he was disgusted by how Lu Lanhua had treated his mother and sister when she was alive. In the evening, Lu Lanhua's closest relatives went up the mountain to light a lantern for her. In the words of the village's superstitions, it was to prevent the deceased from feeling afraid because of the darkness on the mountain on the first night of her burial. Yunjian waited for Yun Yi and Qin Yiru to be done before they drove back to Longmen City. It was already 7:30 in the evening. Not long after they drove out of Xinjiang town, there was a traffic jam. It was not really a traffic jam. It was the car of Chenilan's family, who had been unhappy with Yunjian since the morning, collided with another car. It was not that serious. It was just the collision of the two cars that scraped against each other and scraped off some paint on the car. The driver of the car coming from the opposite direction said that he had collided with Chenilan's family's car and that both parties were responsible, so he did not call the police and settled the matter in private. The driver was in a hurry to leave because he had something urgent to attend to. In the end, Chenilan blocked the road like a shrew, demanding the driver to take full responsibility and compensate for her emotional distress. The shrew's tirade was incessant, comparable to the way she scolded Yunjian earlier. Chenilan even parked her family's car in the middle of the road, saying that if the driver did not take full responsibility and compensate for her emotional distress, no one should drive on this road. Her shameless behavior made the driver frown. Chinilan left late today as well, but she had been stuck here for half an hour already. Just as the driver was rushing for time, thinking that he would just pay for the shrew he met today, he suddenly saw Yunjian alighting from a Ferrari sports car. The moment he saw Yunjian, the driver's eyes shone. He even abandoned his car and stumbled toward Yunjian in front of Chinilan and everyone else. New cruise's director. I heard that you went back to your hometown, so I came looking for you. Hello. I'm Su Wenjiang, Xingdi's director. Chapter 21:17. New cruise's director. Chinilan put her hands on her waist. She was quite fat and didn't look very good. Her nose was very big, and her nostrils were so big that they were about the size of an adult's finger. Her nose was flat, her face was round, and her face was full of wrinkles. However, she was wearing lipstick and foundation that made her look like a young girl. New cruise's director. The driver who had just collided with her sports car had actually rushed over and addressed Yunjian as New cruise's director. He had even used such a respectful tone. Chinilan was dumbfounded. She stared blankly at the scene before her. Yunjian. This girl who was about the same age as her daughter, Hong Junhua, and whom she had not treated with respect before, was actually the internationally renowned director of New Cruise. That was impossible. Moreover, the driver she had just argued with was once the director of the largest car marketing company in Country Z, Saint Disco. New Cruise and Saint Disco were both renowned car marketing companies in Country Z. Before New Cruise, Saint Disco was once the largest car marketing company in Country Z. Now, not only had New Cruise taken away Saint Disco's title as the largest car marketing company in Country Z, it had even stepped onto the international platform before Saint Disco. Of course, even with New Cruise, Saint Disco's reputation was not something that Chinilan and the rest, who had started their business in plastic processing and had some savings, could compete with. To make an analogy, it was like the difference between an ant and an elephant. Chinilan's face was as white as a sheet. Her body froze instantly like a puppet whose strings had been cut. She was stunned on the spot. Just as Chinilan's face was as white as a sheet, Saint Disco's director, Su Wenjiang, spoke to Yunjian respectfully and carefully. New Cruise's director, it's like this. Ever since New Cruise stepped onto the international platform, Saint Disco's monthly car sales have been on a downward trend. If this continues, Saint Disco won't be able to continue operating at a loss. Look at you. You're so young and yet you've managed to get to where you are today. I'm truly amazed by your capabilities. Since we're in the same industry, can you give Saint Disco some leeway? The CEO of Xingdi, Su Wenjiang, spoke carefully to Yunjian. It was obvious that Su Wenjiang Xingdi had always been New Cruise's competitor. Now that New Cruise had entered the international market, the first big car company that the citizens in the country chose to buy cars was New Cruise. The main reason was that not only was New Cruise's prices affordable, but the car salesman's service was top-notch as well. If word of this brand got out, they could even flaunt their wealth. Under such circumstances, Su Wenjiang Xingdi Company's sales were declining day by day. Today, Su Wenjiang Xingdi Company could no longer operate its funds. If this continued, it was very likely that it would face bankruptcy. Left with no choice, Su Wenjiang heard that New Cruise's director would be coming to Xinjiang town today, so he drove there without stopping to rest. Since he heard that the director of New Cruise was a young lady, Su Wenjiang had rushed over to see if he could get some sympathy from the director of New Cruise to spare them. After all, she was a young girl. Not to mention that she was a girl, she didn't have much life experience and was very easy to fool. Perhaps if he said a few more words, she would agree. As long as she spared his Xingdi company, it would only be a matter of time before he made a comeback and toppled New Cruise. In ancient times, there was a case of the king of Yu, Go Jian, gifting a beauty to the king of Wu, Fu Chai. In the end, he endured the humiliation and destroyed the Wu kingdom. As long as he could fool this young lady into sparing him today, he wouldn't have to worry about Xingdi not being able to topple New Cruise in the future. He, Su Wenjiang, refused to accept that his once largest car company in country Z had been snatched away by a young lady who had just come of age. However, just as Su Wenjiang thought that Yun Jian would agree, Yun Jian tilted her head to look at Su Wenjiang and denied it. No. Su Wenjiang was stunned as he thought that as a girl, Yun Jian would be too embarrassed to reject him. By then, Yun Jian had one foot in her red Ferrari sports car. Before she closed the door, she glanced at Su Wenjiang from the corner of her eyes and left him with a merciless remark. Perhaps after your company goes bankrupt, I can be merciful and buy your company at a high price, eh? Chapter 21:18. After that, Yun Jian's lips curled into a smile. She looked like she was sneering and mocking at the same time. She got into the red Ferrari right in front of everyone. A young lady in her prime would probably not be able to shed all pretenses of cordiality when faced with such a situation. Girls cared a lot about their reputation and were too embarrassed to reject people most of the time. Su Wenjiang initially thought that Yun Jian would be the same, which was why he boldly came to beg Yun Jian to let Xingdi off the hook. He wanted to give Xingdi a few car orders from new crews. Su Wenjiang had even prepared a contract that was beneficial to Xingdi. As long as he tricked Yun Jian into signing and stamping on the contract, it would be legally binding. Then, even if new crews did not want to admit it, they would still have to split half of the sales with him. If Yun Jian was a normal university student, she might have signed and stamped her name, falling into Su Wenjiang's trap after being lured in by Su Wenjiang's embellished words. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. That saying made sense. However, Yun Jian was not a normal university student. Therefore, before Su Wenjiang could use his words to trick Yun Jian rejected him decisively. She even said that after Su Wenjiang's company went bankrupt, she would be merciful and buy his company at a high price. Su Wenjiang almost vomited blood when he heard that. However, Su Wenjiang held it in. So, you're still not going to let us pass, Mr. CEO of Xingdi? Yun Jian raised her brows and threatened Su Wenjiang. Su Wenjiang clenched his fists and ran to make way for them. After all, he did not have the right to be arrogant in front of Yun Jian. With New Cruise's current capabilities, it was not impossible for them to trip up Xingdi. After the road was cleared, Yun Jian stepped on the accelerator. The fiery red flagship limited edition Ferrari LaFerrari sped forward like a flash of lightning. At the next junction, it drifted away at lightning speed and left everyone's sight. Chenilan and her family of 3 were left dumbfounded. She was the director of New Cruise. No wonder she could afford a sports car. I heard that New Cruise's annual net profit is in the hundreds of millions. Compared to her New Cruise, her family's plastic processing factory was just a silly joke. It was already 9:30 p.m. when they returned home to Longmen City. Yun Jian and Yuni parked their cars. At the same time, Yun Jian and the others were walking towards Gu Yunjian's house. Before they reached Gu Yunjian's house, a few figures suddenly walked out from the side. Chen Sini giggled and skipped over with a red veil in her hand. Mo Sen and Adam, who had not been seen for a long time, were standing at the gate. Luo Meiqi and Lan Su, who was carrying a child, also stood at the side, laughing secretly. What's wrong? Yun Jian was very confused. Sister. C.E. Gidge. A lively figure sprung out from the bushes. It was Xiao Yunzhu who was leading the way, pulling Duanli and Duanya over as he shouted. Before he could finish, his mouth was covered by Lang Mei, who appeared out of nowhere. Shoo! If you dare spout nonsense, I'll make your ass eat. Lang Mei pouted and glared at Xiao Yunzhu like she was afraid that Yun Jian would find out about the big secret from Xiao Yunzhu. Xiao Yunzhu blinked at the threat and kept quiet. Chen Sini went to Yun Jian and folded her veil before covering Yun Jian's eyes with it. Jian, don't move. Quick. Let me show you something. Yun Jian was confused, but when she saw how excited everyone around her was, she followed Chen Sini's lead to her and Siyi's villa and went inside. I'll remove your veil on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1. As she spoke, Chen Sini removed the veil that covered Yunjian's eyes. What caught Yunjian's eyes were the roses that were strewn all over the floor under the orange light of the house. From the living room to the stairs, from the stairs to the upper floor, the kitchen, the balcony, and everything else were covered with roses. The roses were arranged in various heart shapes and there was a wide variety of them. It was impossible to create such a lineup without spending days and nights. Inside the house, there was a total of 99,999 roses, which covered the entire villa. Yunjian sucked in a breath and was stunned for a moment. Before Yunjian could figure out what was going on, a slender figure flashed from the side and a handsome face appeared before her. Her hand was raised by the person who came, and a silver ring that shone under the orange light was put on her right ring finger. Then, Ce, who had never knelt to anyone before, knelt down on one knee in front of Yunjian, right in front of everyone. Looking at Yunjian sincerely, his thin lips moved as he spoke in a domineering tone that did not allow her to refute. Xiao Jian, marry me. Chapter 21:19. There was a hint of anticipation on Ce's chiseled face. After he put the ring on Yunjian's right ring finger domineeringly, he knelt down on one knee in front of Yunjian in front of everyone. Chen Sini, Lan Su, Luo Mei, Leng Mei, and Qingyu almost clapped and cheered at his action. Mo Sen, Adam, and Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and a few other men who were present with Chen Sini were not as enthusiastic as the women, but all of them had meaningful looks on their faces. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for your reading. Chapter 21:20. Ce did not know how to say sweet nothings, nor did he know how to do anything romantic. There was a type of person who was born high and mighty, as if he was the ruler of all things. His entire body exuded a sense of holiness that no one could underestimate. Even if he did things that were no different from ordinary people, his nobility made him stand out from the masses. Obviously, Ce was such a person. He had always been high and mighty, and even disdained to speak to others. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 21:21. After taking off her clothes, Ce went straight into Yunjian's room. Inside the room, the night was long. Just waiting for him to lift that mysterious veil, and see behind that veil of enchantment, and sink into depravity. After leaving Yunjian and Ce's house, Chen Sini was sent home by Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen. Mo Sen also took Luo Berry away. Adam took the little boy, Zhou Yiran, from Lan Su's arms. However, before he could do so, Zhou Yiran hugged Lan Su tightly and glared fiercely at Adam, refusing to let him carry him. You're being fierce with me? Be fierce again and I'll throw you into space. Zhou Yiran pouted and glared fiercely at him, his little hand clutching Lan Su's clothes tightly. That little hand faintly touched Lan Su's chest. Adam's jealousy surged, and he roared at Zhou Yiran, the little fellow. Sob, 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 Mama, Papa is bullying me. With that, Zhou Yiran was even more unwilling to leave his mother's arms. Why are you so fierce to the child? Go away. What made Adam even angrier was that Lan Su helped the child slap his hand away and walked away angrily. Adam tilted his head and could clearly see Zhou Yiran hugging his mother, Lan Su, and making faces at him. You little bastard, how dare you? How dare you snatch my woman? Adam chased after him angrily. It was a noisy family of three, but they were also enjoying themselves. After Leng Mei left Yunjian and Ce's house, she walked carefully on the streets. Leader's stamina was too damn good. She was having fun day and night and her stamina couldn't take it anymore. If this continued, the one who would have a kidney deficiency wouldn't be the leader, but her. Leng Mei, where are you going? Leng Mei was about to leave carefully when Ruo Yin's voice came from behind. Ruo Yin was the spear god who was known as the sharpshooter in the Blood Doll organization. At the same time, Ruo Yin and Leng Mei, who was known as the #1 expert under the Blood Doll leader, were competing for the top spot. Ugh! Leng Mei saw that Ruo Yin had discovered her escape. She looked left and right, then rushed towards Ruo Yin and covered her mouth. Shoo! Don't talk. I'm telling you, I'm running away. I'll come back later. Therefore, the position of Blood Doll's #1 expert is temporarily given to you. Take it if you want. Leng Mei's words stunned Ruo Yin. You want to escape again? Where are you going? Ruo Yin blinked and asked. Even if I have to go to the ends of the earth, I will go wherever there is no leader. If she didn't escape now, her old waist would break. Leng Mei said solemnly. With that, Leng Mei released her hand that was covering Ruo Yin's mouth. She waved at Ruo Yin and was about to walk forward, leaving behind a cool sentence. Then, bye-bye. I'm leaving. Don't miss me, I'm just a legend. As soon as she said the word legend, a steady male voice sounded behind Leng Mei. Leaving? Where are you going? After hearing the steady male voice, Leng Mei was so scared that she trembled. She turned around slowly and stiffly. She forced a bitter smile. Hey, what a coincidence. Leader, why are you here too? Not far away, there was a man dressed in black from head to toe and wearing a black hoodie. Under the hoodie was a very young but frighteningly pale handsome face. It was late at night. Di Lin suddenly stood behind Leng Mei, giving off the feeling that he was a messenger of the night. What a coincidence. Di Lin's handsome face, which was almost pale, moved slightly. Unknowingly, Di Lin had already grabbed Leng Mei's hand. Ruo Yin gave Leng Mei a "take care" expression and slipped away. Hey! Ruo Yin, you! Leng Mei saw this and was about to scold Ruo Yin for being unkind. But Di Lin had already grabbed her hand and was walking towards the hotel. As your punishment for running away, you're not allowed to get out of bed for the next month. A. Chapter 21-22. Leng Mei rolled her eyes when she heard what Di Lin said. She had a feeling that her waist would be so sore that she could not feel anything for the next month because of her escape. God, she did not want that. The next morning, Yun Jian woke up sprawled on Ci's chest. She was not in a hurry to put on her clothes when she woke up but automatically wrapped her arms around his chest with her eyes closed. Ce had actually woken up a long time ago. When he felt his Yun Jian sleeping so soundly with her arms wrapped around his chest, he did not move, afraid that he would disturb her sleep. They slept until 8 in the morning and Yun Jian did not even go for her morning run. When they woke up, it was just in time for breakfast. Yun Jian stayed at home for the next 2 days with Ce. Occasionally, Xiao Yunzhu would bring Duanli and Duanya over to play with Yun Jian and Ce. However, Xiao Yunzhu, Duanli, and Duanya had made a group of friends recently, so they would go out when it was time for them to play. Children were innocent and naive, but also very cute. Yun Jian treated Ce as her man now, the kind where they did not hide anything from each other. Therefore, Yun Jian told Ce about the discovery of her body in her past life. Ce frowned when he heard that. After all, it was Yun Jian's body in her past life. They had not started researching it yet. It would be inappropriate if the researchers were to study her body. Who would want their body to be touched here and there? It was fortunate that they had not started researching it yet. It was Xiao Jian's original body after all. I'll send someone to get her back, Ce said. No, I'll do it myself. I won't publicize it if I can, Yun Jian said. Ce would never reject Yun Jian's decision. After staying at home with Ce for 2 days, Ce returned to an Hun organization while Yun Jian returned to the University of Rivertown. On the long-distance bus back to Jianghu City, Liang Shumin, who was traveling with Yun Jian, had a bitter expression on her face. She looked as if she had a lot on her mind. Halfway through the car ride, Liang Shumin asked Yun Jian, Yunjian, tell me, if a guy says he likes you, but plays around with other guys and girls every day, what do you think? Not only do you have to give him money, but you also have to treat his friends to meals and bars every day. If this kind of guy asked you to give yourself to him, would you agree? The boy Liang Shumin was talking about was undoubtedly her boyfriend, Jianghu. Yunjian could tell that Liang Shumin's boyfriend, Jianghu, was most likely asking to sleep with Liang Shumin. I won't, Yunjian rejected decisively. Why? Liang Shumin asked, puzzled. Protect yourself. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Yunjian didn't give a reason. She only said this to Liang Shumin. Liang Shumin fell silent after hearing this. At that time, Liang Shumin had never thought that her life would change because of Yunjian's words. After Yunjian returned to school, she went back to her normal life. In the past few days, the most sensational news was that the most handsome guy in Dongfang University, who had displayed 99 roses in a heart to Yunjian, had his legs crippled by an unknown person. He even had difficulty walking in the future. Needless to say, this was definitely done by CE. However, this wasn't within the scope of Yunjian's consideration. At this moment, Yunjian was planning to apply for leave to go to Marilena's tomb in Country M in a few days' time. However, plans could never keep up with changes. On this day, Yunjian and Zhu Huili arrived at the classroom very early and saw that their classmates were already there. A few of them were holding a newspaper and making a big fuss. Seeing that Yunjian had arrived, the classmates were still talking among themselves. One of the students was holding a newspaper at this moment and cried out in surprise, Mr. Zhang. Oh my God. Shocking. Shocking. I heard that something big happened internationally. The top secret agent on the international secret agent ranking, the infamous slaying god, is dead. Her body is in Marilena's tomb in Country M. I heard that she's been dead for a long time, but her body hasn't decomposed yet. Now that countless international bosses have heard the news, they've formed teams to snatch her away. A. Chapter 21-23. I heard that the news was leaked by someone. I wonder if it's true. Shocking. It's too shocking. According to the newspaper, after hearing the news, all the top people in the world rushed to Marilena's grave before they even had the time to think about the authenticity of the news. Slaying God, the #1 international secret agent ranking, is just too awesome. It's just a rumor, but it's not confirmed that it's slaying God. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 21-24. The male student's words successfully attracted Yunjian's attention. Yunjian stopped in her tracks. Hee, I knew you'd be interested in this. Seeing how you usually don't care about ordinary things, I knew you'd be especially interested in some strange things. The male student walked towards Yunjian. As he walked, he even snapped his fingers and pretended to be quite handsome. You're from the Archaeological Society? This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 21-25. This female member was also a student of the School of Archaeology of Rivertown and a member of the Archaeology Society. Most of the students in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown were from the archaeology faculty. Very few students from other faculties were studying in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown. Hence, the Archaeology Society wasn't like other societies where you could join as long as you were interested. If a student of the School of Archaeology of Rivertown wanted to join the Archaeology Society, they had to be outstanding. Outstanding here meant that they were outstanding enough to be one of the best in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown. Only then would they be qualified to join the Archaeology Society. Besides Yunjian, Ma Zhixiang and the other four were all members of the Archaeology Society. In other words, the 5 of them were the best in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown. The female member who spoke was called Lu Yuyan. Lu Yuyan had the best overall ability among the 5 members of the Archaeology Society who were participating in the tomb adventure. She said that because the few of them had already explored a place like the tomb before. In the end, they had brought a person with no common sense there and had almost triggered the trap in the tomb, causing all of them to lose their lives on the spot. In the end, Lu Yuyan had resolved the crisis and saved everyone. Lu Yuyan's words weren't directed at Yun Jian. After Lu Yuyan said that, Ma Zhixiang scratched his head. His face that wasn't handsome but wasn't ugly either immediately revealed an awkward expression. Have you learned self-defense before? Ma Zhixiang turned to ask Yun Jian. The tomb adventure wasn't like the usual. Previously, the person who didn't know anything had almost wiped out all the members of the Archaeology Society who had gone to the tomb. As the president, Ma Zhixiang naturally had to take this matter seriously. This wasn't a joke. However, Ma Zhixiang wasn't a straightforward person when it came to rejecting people. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken the risk to bring a person who didn't know anything to the tomb. Oh yes, Zhixiang, she's the one I told you about previously. She's the new president of the Martial Arts Society at the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. Oh, she's amazing. Even the president of our Martial Arts Society, Mo Buffon, wasn't her match. So, you don't have to worry about whether she'll drag you down. Tong Jingjin patted his chest and spoke to Ma Zhixiang in a reassuring tone. Lu Yuyan let out a sigh of relief. Then, she turned to Yun Jian and said, "That's good. We've confirmed that there will be 6 of us. We'll set off at 2:00 sharp. If you have anything to do, you should take advantage of this time to do it." Compared to the initial questioning, Lu Yuyan's tone was much more easygoing. Lu Yuyan had the demeanor of an elder sister. She was tall, about 1.7 meters tall, with a pair of slender legs. She wore a pair of black flat-bottomed boots, a clean black button-down shirt, and a pair of black shorts. Paired with nude-colored stockings, she didn't feel cold even though it was getting closer to winter. Lu Yuyan's appearance was not bad. Her facial features were exquisite. It was just that when she spoke, she had a straight face, which gave people the illusion that she was scolding someone. Actually, it wasn't a bad thing. Yun Jian didn't say much but responded. Yun Jian went back to the martial arts club near the school and instructed the members to practice well. At 2:00 in the afternoon, she met up with Ma Zhixiang, Lu Yuyan, and the other 4. The group boarded the bus to the airport. After taking the plane to Country M, they transferred to a small village in Country M. The small village in Country M wasn't poor. Country M wasn't as big as Country Z, and its population was far less than Country Z. In addition, Country M's economy was developing faster. Therefore, the village here had been developing very well since 2002. Ma Zhixiang rented a taxi, which took them to the small village. "Shall we find a place to rest today?" Ma Zhixiang said. They still needed to find out where Marilena's tomb was. It was everyone's first time coming to this small village in Country M, so they naturally didn't know the way. Yun Jian and the others nodded in agreement. By the way, if any of you have good English and can communicate normally with the people in Country M, go and ask the passers-by where Marilena's tomb is. We'll find a place to rest nearby. In the group, a fat and short boy spoke up. Yuyan's English is good. Let her go. Yuyan was the one who translated the taxi just now, a girl with 2 ponytails said. I learned it from the English school. I really don't know how to ask for directions, Lu Yuyan wasn't proud and said bluntly. Then what should we do? The girl with 2 ponytails shook her head and frowned. Just when everyone didn't know what to do, a beautiful voice sounded, I'll go, eh? Chapter 21-26. The one who spoke was none other than Yun Jian. Yun Jian pursed her lips and replied. Is your English good? The lowly-looking girl with 2 ponytails turned to look at Yun Jian and asked. Although the lowly-looking girl with 2 ponytails was already in university, her appearance and dressing made her look like a junior high school student. Her name was Night Spirit. Night Spirit. Just from her name, one could tell that she was a mischievous girl. Night Spirit was actually 19 years old, but judging from her appearance, people would believe that she was only 14 or 15 years old. I can communicate normally with the Americans, Yun Jian explained. That's amazing. The fat boy next to her was called Guodongyang. He gave Yun Jian a thumbs up. As for the 5 people other than Yun Jian, the boy who had never spoken was nearly 1.9 meters tall. His body was quite strong, and his strong muscles could be seen from his clothes. This boy's name was Ling Feng. He did not like to talk much and looked rather mature. He was only in his early 20s, but he looked like a mature man in his 30s. Ma Zhixiang and the other 4 did not doubt Yun Jian's words at all. Since they had agreed to let Yun Jian come with them, then in their hearts, they had already treated Yun Jian as one of their own. Soon, with Yun Jian asking for directions, the 6 of them found a hotel closest to Marilena's tomb. Marilena's tomb was nearby, but it was still a 2-hour journey on the mountain road from the village. The mountain path was rugged, so it was usually done in groups of several people. There were no exceptions. This was because if you did not go in groups, the villagers would not allow foreigners to go to Marilena's tomb. After resting for a day, Yun Jian and the others went to Marilena's tomb with teams from various countries early the next morning. Other than Yun Jian's team, the other teams were basically made up of foreigners. However, what was rather surprising was that one of the teams was also from country Z. Looking at the age of the members of that team, they were also in their 20s. Like Ma Zhixiang and the others, they were probably from an archaeology school. However, those people looked quite cold. When they were walking on the mountain road, Ma Zhixiang kindly handed the oranges he brought to them and asked if they wanted to eat them. In the end, that person directly slapped the oranges Ma Zhixiang gave him to the ground. Ma Zhixiang looked embarrassed, and then the 2 parties ignored each other. Yun Jian did not pay attention to these things. The group continued forward. The mountain road was rugged and even steep in some places. When they reached a fork in the road, they were about to go to the other road. The owner of the inn gave him a map. This fork in the road was the closest route to Marilena's tomb. Just as the group was about to walk in that direction, a few foreigners who were sitting on a few large rocks at the intersection of the road jumped down from the rocks and blocked the way. "We're taking this road. All of you, scram to the other road," the leader of these people said in a ruffian voice. He spoke in English. This road belongs to everyone. Who do you think you are to take it just because you say so?" In another team from country Z, like Yun Jian's team, a girl with loose hair and Western-style clothes replied to the leader in fluent English. This Western-style girl was called Lu Mengyu. That was what her companions called her. Everyone present could speak English. It was just a matter of whether they were proficient or not. As for Ma Zhixiang, Night Spirit, and the others, they were all university students who got into regular universities. They could generally understand the general meaning of English. It was just that they did not know how to speak it. After the Western-style Lu Mengyu finished speaking, the ruffian foreigners walked to the side. Seeing this, Lu Mengyu turned around and smiled smugly at her companions. At the same time, she glanced at Yun Jian and the others from the corner of her eyes. She was full of arrogance and superiority. However, these ruffian foreigners walked to the side and soon surrounded them again. What was different from before was that these ruffian foreigners all had rifles in their hands. The leader of the ruffian foreigners laughed and said, "This road belongs to us. Whoever dares to take it will die." Seeing the foreigners who suddenly carried weapons, Lu Mengyu realized that these foreigners were not ordinary people. She was so frightened that she sat on the ground and crawled back a few steps. Seeing this, the ruffian foreigners nodded and smiled contemptuously. However, just as everyone was disheartened and planned to take a longer route, and the ruffian foreigners looked at the people in front of them with contempt, a beautiful female voice rang out. It was a voice that made the depths of one's soul tremble violently. It spread throughout the place. I'm so sorry. I never knew that my corpse was so charming that it even attracted your Gale mercenaries to come and join in the fun today. It's my honor. A. Chapter 21-27. My corpse. Hurricane mercenaries? Everyone there was stunned for a second when they heard what Yun Jian said. What did Yun Jian mean? What did she mean by my corpse? Could it be that the corpse in Marilena's tomb was hers? Was she slaying God, the #1 secret agent in the world? Of course, no one thought so. To hell with it. Yun Jian. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 21-28. She had her eyes on the corpse, so it was hers. Yun Jian's words made the people who were shocked by Yun Jian's words of my corpse feel that it was an illusion. In spite of it, what Yun Jian did just now was too shocking. Not only was she unfazed when she was faced with the leading foreigner's rifle, she had seized the opportunity when she was answering the foreigner's question to pounce over and snatch the foreigner's gun in just 3 seconds. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 21-29. Ma Zhixiang and the others followed Yun Jian for a long distance before they recovered from their shock. Oh no, my God. Yun Jian, how did you do that just now? Do you know that your pose was so cool? From now on, Guodongyang, a member of the Archaeology School's society, will be your underling. Guodongyang grinned at Yun Jian with his fair lips and teeth as his huge and plump body shook up and down. Guodongyang was a true fatty. Although he looked fat, he was actually even fatter. The lumps of fat on his body clung tightly to his body. However, Guodongyang was an extremely adorable fatty. Not only did the fat on his body not make one feel disgusted, it even made him look adorable. Fatty, you? Underling? Come on, Yun Jian doesn't want to take you in. Night Spirit swung her 2 ponytails and made a funny face at Guodongyang with a grin. What's wrong? So what if I'm fat? Being fat means that I can eat. My body is great and I can eat well. Give me a fulcrum and I can eat your family to the point of poverty. Guodongyang walked with a proud expression as he shook his body twice with his tummy. That action made Night Spirit burst into laughter. She laughed so hard that she almost choked on her own saliva. Fatty, why are you so funny? Are you trying to make me laugh to death? Night Spirit laughed and laughed until she could not hold it in anymore. She hugged her tummy and laughed as she walked forward, unable to stop. How annoying. You guys are so nosy. Seeing Night Spirit and Guodongyang laughing along the way, Lu Mengyu, who was very concerned about her image, brushed her long hair that was scattered over her shoulders and pouted. Hey, we're talking. We're talking about ourselves. It's not a problem for you, right? We're not walking on your path nor are we snatching your place. Furthermore, if it's someone from our team, you guys can only take the long route obediently. If you're unhappy, you can take the long route yourself. Do you really King think we have to bring you along? Night Spirit was not someone to be trifled with either. When she heard Lu Mengyu's words, she immediately retorted without giving her any face. Night Spirit was direct, but as long as one was alive, one should be like Night Spirit. If someone scolded them, they should bombard them with words until they surrendered. Don't say that you're embarrassed to fight back. Think about it from another perspective. If the other party had the nerve to bully you, why would you be embarrassed to fight back? So what if they had shed all pretense of cordiality? If the other party dared to bully you, it meant that she had shed all pretense of cordiality first. Why should you show her any mercy? Night Spirit, well said. I support you. When Guodongyang heard Night Spirit's words, he stood out and said loudly. At the same time, he glanced at Lu Mengyu from the corner of his eye. This stare infuriated Lu Mengyu. Aren't you guys just borrowing that woman's glory? What's so great about that? Did he think that he was very powerful? I think that woman is just a so-so. Didn't he just say a few random words? Did he really think he was a god? Ha! Lu Mengyu was not someone who would swallow her anger. She kept saying, that woman, and quarreled with Night Spirit and Guodongyang. From time to time, she would glare at Yun Jian as if Yun Jian had done something to her. Just as Lu Mengyu was clicking her tongue non-stop, Yun Jian, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "Shut up, there's gunfire." Where did the gunfire come from? The gunfire was so loud, why didn't we hear it? You're trying to prove that you're very powerful just now, right? Lu Mengyu even glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of her eye. However, just as he finished speaking, a series of terrifying gunshots came from the back of the mountain in front of them. Bang! 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 Chapter 2130. Gunshots rang out one after another. They were quite a distance away from where the gunshots were coming from. If someone were to walk there, they would probably hear deafening gunshots. What's going on? What's going on? The moment she heard the gunshots, Lu Mengyu, who was so arrogant earlier, immediately grabbed the sleeve of a boy who came with her. She was so scared that she could not stop trembling. Although Ma Zhixiang, Night Spirit, Guodongyang, Lu Yuyan, and Ling Feng were also afraid of the sudden gunshots, their reactions were many times better than Lu Mengyu's. Why does everyone here have guns? Lu Mengyu was so scared that she grabbed the sleeve of a boy who came with her tightly. She was so scared that she was almost scared to death. There's a gunfight up ahead, Yun Jian ignored Lu Mengyu and said calmly. After Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present was slightly stunned. Gunfight? Why would there be a gunfight? Didn't everyone come here to see the female corpse that won't rot? I only heard that some people wanted to snatch the female corpse. But if that's the case, everyone should compete fairly. Why would they shoot? Lu Mengyu was already trembling in fear. At this time, a girl who was in the same team as Lu Mengyu was less than 1.5 meters tall and was about the height of a child. According to the golden ratio, her figure was just right. She was also a little scared as she spoke softly. However, just as the girl finished speaking, she was interrupted by Yun Jian. Compete fairly? These words only belong to a society ruled by law. I'm sorry to tell you that this is not a place you're familiar with. You still want to compete fairly after entering this place? Are you dreaming? It was not hard to tell that neither Ma Zhixiang's team nor Lu Mengyu's team knew what kind of place they were in. Perhaps they were still heading towards an ordinary tomb, with the idea that the treasure would belong to whoever found it first based on their own abilities. However, they did not know that the people who came to Marilena's tomb to fight for the corpse were all international wanted criminals, international business tycoons, underground gangs, assassin organizations, and mercenary groups. These people treated human lives like grass. Could it be that everyone else is here for the female corpse? It was rumored that the female corpse was slaying God, the #1 secret agent on the international secret agent ranking. Was slaying God's influence so great in this world? It's just a news report saying that the female corpse is suspected to be slaying God, the #1 international secret agent, and all those people are rushing over to check it out? They haven't even entered the tomb yet, and they're already using their guns and starting a massacre just to snatch first place? Do you still regard human lives as worthless? Ma Zhixiang was indeed worthy of being the president of the Archaeology Society. He possessed an intelligent brain and immediately asked this question in shock. It was only suspected to be the corpse of slaying God, the top international secret agent. They did not even know if the news was real or fake, yet all the top international figures were rushing over to check it out. What kind of existence was slaying God? Although Ma Zhixiang, Lu Mengyu, and the rest were students. They shuddered when they heard about slaying God, the top secret agent on the international secret agent ranking. However, they were university students after all. They would not know what slaying God's international status was. What they said above was spoken in Chinese. The foreigners in the team standing at the side probably did not understand Mandarin. However, a foreigner with a beard that covered half his face could not help but speak in Mandarin when he heard Ma Zhixiang. The moment he mentioned slaying God, the foreigner was so serious that he was filled with respect. Every word that came out of the foreigner's mouth shocked and resonated with everyone present. Slaying God, the #1 international secret agent ranking. She's an existence that makes the world tremble. Slaying God is the person who shocked the world during the Bloody Night incident a few years ago. Those who are targeted by slaying God will definitely die. If we were to talk about slaying God's most famous incident, it would be the Bloody Night incident a few years ago. When slaying God wasn't #1 on the international secret agent ranking, she was one of the top 10 secret agents on the international secret agent ranking and top 10 assassins on the international assassin ranking due to her extraordinary ability. A total of 20 top international assassins went up against slaying God alone. Do you know how it ended in the end? Slaying God single-handedly wiped out the international secret agent assassin ranking and killed all 20 top assassins on the spot. That's the infamous Bloody Night incident. Tell me, how can the death of such a terrifying person not cause a stir? A. Chapter 2131. A. Chapter 2132. A. Chapter 2133. Yun Jian followed Ma Zhixiang and the others to the hillside first. Lu Mengyu and the others followed closely behind. Later, the other teams of foreigners also followed Yun Jian and the others to the hillside. The hillside was not high. Yun Jian and the others walked for about 10 minutes to reach the top of the hill. At the top of the hill, they could see the scene of the terrifying gunfight about a few hundred meters away. From the top of the hill, one could see the entire scene of the gunfight, as well as the entrance to the tomb at the side of the hill where the gunfight was in full swing. Marilena's tomb was different from other tombs buried underground. It was on flat ground. Of course, Marilena's tomb was located in the middle of a mountain. Entering from the entrance of the tomb was equivalent to walking in a man-made cave. But unlike a cave, it was a tomb. After Lu Mengyu followed the group to the top of the hill, she was no longer afraid when she saw that she was safe. Her cowardice disappeared in an instant. She even saw Yun Jian, who had just shown her talent, follow them to the top of the hill. Lu Mengyu was unhappy. She pointed at the scene of the gunfight in the distance and said loudly to Yun Jian, "Aren't you very good? What's wrong? Are you scared now? Why did you come to the top of the hill with us to take refuge? Go down if you have the guts." Who asked her to show off in front of everyone just now? As soon as Lu Mengyu finished speaking, the girl who was less than 1.5 meters tall and about the same height as a child also helped Lu Mengyu to point out Yun Jian's faults. "The gunfight over there is so scary. But didn't you say that there is no fair competition here? Since you said that, it means that you are very familiar with the scene of such a gunfight, right? Then why did you come to the top of the hill like us to take refuge?" It was normal for young girls to pay attention to their image. But Yun Jian had just refuted the words of the girl who was less than 1.5 meters tall in front of everyone. It was reasonable that the girl was unhappy. Now that they were safe, the girls helped Lu Mengyu to fight back against Yun Jian. "Alright, Lu Mengyu, Dan Kaiyue, stop talking. It was this girl who helped us just now, so we didn't have to take a detour. It's really too much for the two of you to continue talking." At this moment, a boy in Lu Mengyu's team finally stood up and said something fair. The girl, who was less than 1.5 meters tall, was short but not heavy. She was thin and petite, and helped Lu Mengyu to say that Yun Jian was not her. Her name was Dan Kaiyue. As soon as the boy finished speaking, Dan Kaiwa, and Lu Mengyu shut their mouths obediently. Then the boy turned to look at Yun Jian and smiled apologetically. Then he turned to Ma Zhixiang and said, "Well, I'm sorry about earlier. You were kind enough to give me an orange to eat, and I even swatted it away. I heard from you guys on the way that you guys are university students from the School of Archaeology. Then we should be similar. We are also students of the School of Archaeology. My father is a professor and an archaeologist in our school. This time, I was the one who led the team. Before we came out, my father told me not to care about others. People outside are sinister, so when you gave me an orange just now, I didn't give you a good look. Now, I apologize to you. I hope you can forgive me." As the boy spoke, he reached out his hand to Ma Zhixiang and introduced himself very seriously. "Let's get to know each other. My name is David. A. Chapter 2134. David was not pretending to be aloof, which was why he had swatted away Ma Zhixiang's orange. Now that the misunderstanding had been resolved, Ma Zhixiang extended his hand in a friendly manner and shook David's hand. "Your father was right. When you're outside, you have to be vigilant. It's not your fault. Haha." After a while, Ma Zhixiang and David became good friends. The main reason was that Ma Zhixiang had let bygones be bygones. Lu Mengyu and Dan Kaiwa saw that Ma Zhixiang and David had become good friends. Dan Kaiwa did not say much while Lu Mengyu rolled her eyes. Look! Look! Over there." Just when the tension had eased, a foreigner suddenly pointed excitedly at the location of the gunfight in the distance and exclaimed. His exclamation attracted everyone's attention. In the distance, a small team of 8 people suddenly appeared in the middle of the gunfight between the two sides. These 8 people were undoubtedly Blackhead and his men. When Blackhead and his men joined the gunfight, it became a 3-way gunfight. The 3 groups of people who came from different regions and had different goals started fighting each other with their spears. For a moment, gunshots rang through the air. "Kill! Kill! We swear to protect our benefactor, slaying God's body. We'd rather die today than take back our benefactor, slaying God's body." 100 meters away, at the scene of the gunfight, Blackhead, who was shot in the arm, roared. Ignoring the throbbing pain, he reloaded the spent bullets into the magazine and attacked again. The 2 underworld forces that Blackhead was fighting in the distance had many people. The 2 underworld forces that were still in the gunfight suddenly came to a consensus and charged toward Blackhead and his men. "Oh no! They've stopped attacking each other and are planning to kill us first." One of Blackhead's men frowned and said. Blackhead clenched his fist. Suddenly, in front of Ma Zhixiang and the others who were 100 meters away, he poked his head out, held his pistol, and shot dead the enemy's men. He shouted, he yelled, "Don't retreat. Don't forget, we'd be dead if it weren't for slaying God. Now that slaying God is in trouble, how can we surrender? Kill them. Kill them. Kill." Blackhead's brothers stood up, exposed themselves in front of the enemy, and charged forward, screaming and yelling. 100 meters away, Ma Zhixiang and the others were stunned by the fighting spirit of Blackhead's group. "Oh my God, they'll die if they do this." Night Spirit's eyes widened in shock. Die? It was no longer important to Blackhead and the others. Slaying God was the one who gave them a second chance at life. Now that the underground forces wanted to take slaying God's body away, they must not let them succeed. Gunshots rang out incessantly. The 2 opposing dark forces now aimed their guns at Blackhead's group of 8. As Ma Zhixiang and the others exclaimed in shock, Blackhead's group of 8 fell to the ground one after another. Blackhead and the others had covered themselves very well. They were wearing bulletproof vests, so they weren't hit in the vitals. However, they were still missing 1 or 2 shots. One of the bosses of the underworld forces suddenly stood out and shouted, "You're too weak. Kill. Kill. Kill them all. Damn it." How dare you sneak attack my men? Kill them all. Give them the final blow. After that, 8 of his men with rifles pointed their guns at Blackett's group. Seeing this, pain and despair flashed through Blackett's group of 8. They were still too weak. They thought they could do something for slaying God. But now, they couldn't do it anymore. I'm sorry, we're just a bunch of trash. But we've done our best. Blackett closed his eyes slowly. Just when he and Ma Zhixiang and the others who were watching from 100 meters away thought that Blackett's group of 8 were done for, tut 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 tut. 8 consecutive machine gun shots were heard. The 8 men who had pointed their guns at Blackett's group were killed instantly. Ma Zhixiang and the others widened their eyes from afar. The girl who was supposed to be standing next to them had somehow gone down the hill and was now standing in the center of the battle between the 2 dark forces. It was the most eye-catching spot. The girl was holding a machine gun that she had gotten from somewhere. After shooting at the 8 people, Blackett and the others reacted and looked at her with shocked and terrified eyes. The girl's lips curled into a smile in front of the 2 dark forces, Blackett's group, and Ma Zhixiang and the others who were watching from afar. She lowered her head slightly and revealed a creepy smirk. She said something that made everyone's faces turn pale. Even if they're trash or dogs, the people I've protected aren't people you can kill just because you want to, eh? Chapter 2135. The people I've protected, even if they're trash, even if they're dogs, are not people you can kill just because you want to. Yun Jian's words weighed down on everyone's hearts like a 1,000-pound boulder. No one was able to react to the sudden turn of events. By the time they realized what was going on, Yun Jian had already fired her machine gun at the 8 men who were trying to kill Blackett. She had. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you want to support the author, please go to the official website to read. A. Chapter 2136. Ma Zhixiang was indeed the president of the Archaeology Society. He had great foresight and his analysis was very reasonable. This Yun Jian was not simple, so they should not drag her down. Ma Zhixiang's words made Lu Yuyan stop what she was doing. She really did not insist on going down the mountain to bring Yun Jian back. Ma Zhixiang's team of Archaeology Society members were not simple. Otherwise, why would the school be willing to let them explore the tomb? This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. To support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2137. Brother Milo, what are you doing? Xian Yu asked as he scanned the surroundings after giving Milo a big hug. Hee hee. There's a group of overconfident forces and a few ants who barged into my territory trying to snatch the entrance to Marilena's tomb from me. I'm getting rid of evil for the people. After Milo heard Xian Yu's words, he glared fiercely at the underground forces who were in a gunfight with him, Blackett and his men who joined the fight later, and Yun Jian who appeared last. Oh. What kind of ants dare to be so presumptuous in front of Brother Milo? After Xian Yu heard Milo's words, he looked around with a slightly scrutinizing gaze. Envious Yu's words clearly eased Milo's anger from before. They're just a few clowns. Milo replied Xian Yu. Since they're just clowns, why should we care about their lives? Brother Milo, I've heard that Marilena's tomb is like a huge maze. The female corpse suspected to be slaying God was hidden in it by a few researchers. Until now, those who entered the tomb have yet to find the female corpse. I heard that someone searched Marilena's tomb for 3 days and 3 nights but still couldn't find the female corpse's hiding place. Instead, they returned to the entrance of the tomb. It turns out that they've been walking in circles. Brother Milo, I'm telling you the truth. I'm only telling you this because of our close relationship. It's more important for us to enter the tomb and find the female corpse. If we're late, it'll be snatched away by those who have already entered the tomb. As for this group of clowns, let them continue to dance. The most important thing now is to enter the tomb as soon as possible. With Brother Milo's status, how can you limit your goal to this? Xian Yu was already standing in front of Milo when he spoke to him sternly. That's right. Ha ha ha. Brother Xian, you're really far-sighted. Let's go. We'll enter the tomb now. After Milo heard Xian Yu's words, he laughed and didn't argue with Yun Jian anymore. He led his men and quickly walked toward the tomb. The other group of underground forces did not stop them. After a gunfight, Milo clearly had the upper hand. It was great that Milo no longer cared. Yun Jian did not continue to attack Milo. This Milo was just a small character and was not worth her energy. After Milo walked into Marilena's tomb with a group of people laughing, another group of dark forces also followed into the tomb. With a light leap, Yun Jian hopped down from the rock and made her way to where Blackette and the others had fallen. Can you still get up? Yun Jian stood in front of Blackette and asked. Yes. Blackette looked at Yun Jian as if she was his idol. His voice was so loud that it almost reached the tip of his heart. She is. Blackette struggled for a while before he finally managed to stand up. He covered the gunshot wounds on his body, but blood was still dripping from his wounds. Blackette already realized that she, Yun Jian, was, however, Blackette didn't say the shocking news he had just realized. How is it? Are you guys okay? At this moment, Ma Zhixiang and the others, who were originally standing on the hillside in the distance, ran over. At this time, Ma Zhixiang asked. Ma Zhixiang, who was on the hill, saw the group of people enter Marilena's tomb, so he came down the hill and rushed over. TCH, aren't we fine? Nothing happened. Lu Mengyu muttered. Leave all the weapons on you, go clean your wounds and leave. Just then, Yun Jian looked at Blackette and said to Blackette and the others in an irrefutable tone. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version website A. Chapter 2138. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. But we haven't gotten our savior's body back. One of the men in Blackette's group said. Blackette and his men were injured, both severely and lightly. The man who spoke was so injured that he could barely stand up. However, he was determined to stand up and continue his journey to Marilena's tomb. They had sworn that their second life was given to them by slaying God. If they could die for slaying God one day, they would have no regrets. Leave it to me. I won't let her body fall into anyone's hands. Yun Jian did not wait for the severely injured man to speak. Her voice boomed with a powerful aura. Everyone was stunned when she finished speaking. Yun Jian did not sound like she was joking. Brothers, give her your weapons. Listen to her. Blackette covered his mouth and coughed a few times. After spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, he wiped his mouth nonchalantly and spoke to his men. Clearly, other than Blackette, no one knew Yun Jian's identity. However, these men were absolutely loyal to Blackette. Hence, Blackette and his men threw all their weapons on the ground and listened to Yun Jian. They walked to the side and treated their wounds. After that, they supported each other and left the place. Blackette took one last long look at Yun Jian before turning to leave. It seemed like Blackette and his men had come with the determination to die. Not only were there a variety of pistols on the ground, but there were also grenades and other weapons that Ma Zhixiang and the rest had never seen before. This, Ma Zhixiang, David, and the rest were just university students after all. Although they had learned a lot and were more powerful than the average university student, they were still a group of ordinary people at the end of the day. Hence, they were stunned when they saw the variety of pistols and grenades on the ground. You've seen what happened just now. Those who enter the tomb will be in danger at any time. I can tell you very clearly that the people you'll meet in the tomb will only be scarier than those people just now. Whether it's in terms of international influence, strength, or status, those people just now can't compare to him. So, if you want to enter the tomb, pick up your own weapons and fight. Of course, you can also choose not to take your weapons or not enter the tomb, because once you enter the tomb, I won't care if you live or die. Do as you please. Yun Jian said to the crowd. At this point, she had already done all she could. What the hell? Do you think you're so powerful? You just know how to use weapons. I can do that too. Lu Mengyu glared at Yun Jian. She squatted down and picked a few weapons from the ground. But after holding them in her hands, Lu Mengyu realized that she didn't even know how to use them. Yun Jian ignored Lu Mengyu. At the same time, Ma Zhixiang and the other four had already chosen several weapons and carried them with them. Ma Zhixiang and the other four chose one weapon each. David, Lu Mengyu, Dan Kaiyue, and the others also chose one weapon each. Just as the group of people tried their best to hide their weapons on their bodies, but people could still see that they were carrying weapons with a glance, they glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of their eyes. Suddenly, they saw that Yun Jian was skillfully hiding 2 pistols on the left and right sides of her waist. Then, she inserted 5 grenades into the bandage on her waist, in front of her stomach, and behind her back. Her loose clothes covered these 7 weapons. After that, Yun Jian picked up a few small knives and hid them in various parts of her body. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, Ma Zhixiang and the others wouldn't have believed that Yun Jian hid so many weapons on her body. After she lifted her clothes and rolled up her trousers, she hid all the weapons on her body. On the surface, it was as if she didn't have any weapons on her body. That appearance was like the preparation work of a female agent in a movie before she took out hidden weapons from all over her body to kill someone. Ma Zhixiang and the others were stunned when they saw this. It was Ma Zhixiang who spoke. He opened his mouth wide in surprise and asked, Yun Jian, how did you hide so many weapons all over your body? Top reading website, M.A. Chapter 2139. Yun Jian was biting her butterfly knife. After everything was done, she held the butterfly knife in her mouth and twirled it twice in her hand. Finally, she hid it between her thighs and said bluntly, that's how I did it. What's there to be proud of? Lu Mengyu glared at Yun Jian. She suddenly felt a wave of jealousy. Why did she seem to know everything? I can do it too. Lu Mengyu added. Then she read from. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2140. Lin Wei was already prepared for Yi Ling to ignore him. Lin Wei, one of the 4 leaders of the Inhun organization who was not afraid of anything, was the strongest, and had never been afraid of anyone. However, because he was afraid that Yi Ling would ignore him, he delayed the agreed time by 2 days before coming to look for her. When he said those words that were so indifferent that anyone could hear the indifference in his voice, Lin Wei was afraid that Yi Ling would nod in agreement. However, he did not expect that she would actually. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2141. They had just entered the tomb and walked for 30 minutes, but they had only walked around the tomb once. What? It's so strange. We have been walking forward since we came in from the entrance of the tomb. We just turned at a few forks. How could we return to the same path? How is it possible to go around in circles? Hearing Yun Jian's words, Lu Mengyu felt a chill down her spine. She was so scared that she shivered and stammered to defend herself. Compared to Lu Mengyu, who chose to deceive herself with words of disbelief, Lu Yuyan quickly took out a flashlight and shone it on the wall. Every 5 meters, a tick mark appeared in front of everyone's eyes. This mark was drawn by Lu Yuyan, who was walking at the back, with the red chalk. We really went back to the original path. Lu Yuyan frowned and immediately said. What should we do? We didn't see the entrance just now. Will we not be able to get out? What the hell is going on? Seeing this, Lu Mengyu was so scared that her face turned ashen. I want to get out of here. Dan Kaiyue immediately shivered in fear. Shut your mouths. Just as Lu Mengyu and Dan Kaiyue began to talk and tremble, Yun Jian suddenly shouted. Perhaps in this dark place where there was no light, Lu Mengyu and Dan Kaiyue were really scared by Yun Jian's shout and shut their mouths. At this time, everyone saw Yun Jian pressing her ear against the wall and listening quietly. In less than 2 seconds, Yun Jian raised her head and narrowed her eyes. There is someone on the other side of the wall. Don't scare us. I admit that I don't like you, but what kind of ability do you have to scare us like this? You. Lu Mengyu just said this. With a boom, the wall that Yun Jian had pressed her ear against just now seemed to have been triggered and suddenly opened. A handsome man in his early 30s appeared in front of everyone. He had a dignified appearance and was wearing a researcher's uniform. After the handsome man appeared, the moment he saw Yun Jian, he was slightly stunned. Then, he said to Yun Jian in front of everyone, "Aren't you my aunt's granddaughter?" "Wait, let me think, that little girl named Yun Jian? Why are you here?" The handsome man who suddenly appeared in front of everyone was none other than Zhang Junyi, the distant relative who had taken out the photo of Yun Jian's corpse during Lu Lanhua's funeral. He was also the great scientist that their relatives talked about. "Uncle, are you related to Yun Jian? Judging from your attire, you must be the researcher who studied the female corpse, right? Could you please take us to see the female corpse? We came all the way here just to take a look, and then we'll leave." Night Spirit thought for a moment and hurriedly spoke to Zhang Junyi. Zhang Junyi touched the bridge of his nose, thought for a while, and nodded. "Sure, we'll leave after we take a look, but don't tell anyone else where we hid the female corpse. You know that many people have entered the tomb to look for her recently." Zhang Junyi and this group of researchers had hidden the female corpse very well. Therefore, even if those international bigwigs entered Marilena's tomb, they could not find the female corpse's hiding place. However, just as Zhang Junyi finished speaking, Yun Jian and the others suddenly heard the anxious and terrified voices of other researchers coming from Zhang Junyi's earpiece. "Oh no! Junyi, come back quickly. Those international bigwigs have found out where we hid the female corpse." As soon as he finished speaking, the communication was suddenly cut off. Hearing this, Ma Junyi's pupils constricted. In the next second, he did not have time to explain. He turned around and led Yun Jian and the others to the location where the female corpse was hidden. Chapter 2142. The international group of people had been searching Marilena's tomb for many days without finding any trace of the female corpse. However, the business tycoons from all over the world found the female corpse hidden by the researchers. This explosive news made Yun Jian's eyes narrow fiercely. When Ma Zhixiang, Lu Yuyan, Dai Wei, and the others heard this, their eyes flickered. When they saw Zhang Junyi running back, they knew that Zhang Junyi must be running towards the female corpse. So, they chased after him with all their might. Following Zhang Junyi, they ran through countless tunnels and opened many mechanisms. Finally, they arrived at a place the size of a basketball court. This was a real tomb. 4 coffins were placed around the large and spacious area, and the 4 coffins were connected together to form a very neat square. When Yun Jian, Zhang Junyi, and the others arrived here, they saw a group of researchers dressed like Zhang Junyi standing not far away. And in the distance, there was a group of international bigwigs from all over the world. Among this group of international bigwigs, Milo's group and Xian Yu's group, who they met at the entrance of the tomb, were also present. At the same time, there were many unfamiliar faces. And among this group of international bigwigs, there was a burly middle-aged man who was strangling the neck of a man wearing a researcher's uniform. Obviously, this researcher was caught by this group of international bigwigs and finally forced to reveal the location of the female corpse. That's the coffin. The female corpse is hidden in that coffin, it has nothing to do with me. Now, I have already said, said, "As long as I help you find her, you will let me go." The researcher who was threatened, his legs trembled violently. He pointed at one of the 4 coffins and said to the middle-aged man who was strangling his neck, "Scram." The middle-aged man heard this and kicked the researcher away. Seeing this, the researcher ran towards Yunjian and the others as fast as he could. Bang! However, before the researcher could take 10 steps, a bullet pierced through his head, killing him on the spot. The middle-aged man who grabbed the researcher's neck sneered and said coldly, "It's your honor to be killed by me. How can you run away?" After saying that, the middle-aged man twirled the gun that had just killed the researcher and put it back into his waist case. Look at the tattoo of a male tiger on that middle-aged man's left arm. There's a female tiger tattoo on his right arm. Judging from his disguise, he must be the number 2 assassin on the international assassin ranking, codenamed Tiger. While Ma Zhixiang and the others were still unaware of the situation, their faces turned pale with fright. Standing next to Yun Jian was a group of people who had been following Yun Jian and the others since the small village. A foreigner pointed at the middle-aged man who had just killed the researcher and exclaimed loudly. Ma Zhixiang, Lu Yuyan, Dai Wei, Lu Mengyu, and the others turned pale with fright. Assassin? That's an assassin on the international ranking? Lu Mengyu's face turned green with fright. Although the others were silent, their expressions were not any better. It's not just him. The bald man standing next to Tiger is the international 3S wanted criminal, Mo Wu. Although Mo Wu is not on the international assassin ranking, he was once arrested and imprisoned in Interpol prison. In the end, he managed to escape and was given a kill order by the police. He survived even after being shot by a machine gun. In the end, he was not killed. His ability is comparable to the top 10 assassins on the international assassin ranking. And that woman in the Cheongsam, she must be the international gangster duo, the CEO of the multinational company, Double Knight Group. I heard that this Double Knight Group has secret connections with the biggest international arms smuggling tycoon. Her ability and influence is not something an ordinary person can fight against. This foreigner must have some understanding of these matters, so he was able to identify the group of people just by looking at their appearance. Hearing this, whether it was Ma Zhixiang, Lu Mengyu, or the others, all turned pale with fright and trembled. The people they had never heard of in the world, the people who lived in the rainforest of gunfire, were all here. And each of their identities was more terrifying than the last. Ma Zhixiang and the others were so scared that they did not even dare to breathe. At this moment, Tiger glanced at Yun Jian and the others. He did not take Yun Jian and the others seriously and ordered his men to open the coffin. When the researchers in the distance saw this, they did not dare to stop them. The coffin containing the woman's corpse was opened in front of everyone. The female corpse in the coffin had delicate skin, rosy cheeks, and beautiful looks. With just one look, she gave off a kind of earth-shattering beauty that made people unable to take their eyes off her. She lay quietly in the coffin, wearing a leather jacket and pants that wrapped around her perfect figure. A silver pistol was tied to her thigh. She was so beautiful that it made people forget to breathe. The beauty of the girl in the coffin and Yun Jian's beauty at this moment were somewhat similar. Both were so beautiful that people would never forget them. Ha ha ha. It's her. It's definitely her. There's no mistaking it. It's definitely slaying God herself. Although she's never shown her face, I've interacted with her so many times. There's no mistaking it. It's her. Tiger glared fiercely at the girl in the coffin and cackled savagely. In the next second, Tiger's smile faded and he said to his men, "This B*TCH has been rampant for so many years and she's finally dead. Ha ha ha. She wants to leave just like that? Dream on. Take off slaying God's clothes and cut her into 1,000 pieces. I want her to die without peace." Upon hearing the order, Tiger's men walked toward the female corpse in the coffin. Ma Zhixiang and the others shuddered. They did not expect Tiger to attack the deceased. However, just as Tiger's men were about to attack the female corpse in the coffin, a sharp female voice rang out. A cold female voice rang out in time. The female voice that suddenly rang out caught the attention of everyone present. When everyone turned to look, they saw Yun Jian making her way to the coffin. She was already holding 2 butterfly knives that resembled those of slaying God, who used to dominate the world. When the international bosses saw Yun Jian holding the butterfly knives, they shuddered. She looked exactly like the person in their memories. However, in the next second, Yun Jian walked slowly. The words that came out of her mouth were so cold that everyone's eyes widened. "How dare you humiliate my corpse in front of me? Tiger, I haven't seen you for a few years and you've grown so bold that you can't even recognize me. Do you want to try dying again, eh?" Chapter 2143. That familiar tone, those arrogant words as usual, Tiger's eyes widened as he stared at Yun Jian. His expression changed. Slaying God had a grudge against Tiger. At least in Tiger's heart, slaying God was someone he hated to the bone with. This was because slaying God had sabotaged Tiger's missions more than once, causing him to fail his missions. This had happened many times in his career. This chapter is unauthorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it, eh? Chapter 2144. When Yun Jian's words spread throughout the hall, everyone was shocked. However, Tiger's words dispelled their suspicions that Yun Jian was slaying God. Slaying God's body was lying in the coffin, so how could she be this young girl who suddenly stood out? Didn't she see how that man killed her? He's not someone we can afford to offend. She's crazy. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it, eh? Chapter 2145. The appearance of Bao Lei made Tiger, Double-Faced Lady, Mo Wu, Milo, Xian Yu, and the others squint their eyes. Bao Lei was the strongest of the 120 elites of the Storm Mercenary Group, the Berserk Group. Even though Bao Lei was blind in one eye, his strength would not be affected by this blindness. At this moment, Bao Lei was leading a group of people in front of Tiger and the others. Bao Lei. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. To support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading, eh? Chapter 2146. Yun Jian was holding 2 pistols. Whether it was the action of loading the bullets into the magazine or the action of focusing the muzzle to fire the bullets, it was amazing. Ma Zhixiang and the others were stunned again by Yun Jian's consecutive actions. Her marksmanship is really accurate. Even though it was not the first time seeing Yun Jian fire a gun, Lu Yuyan still exclaimed. Yun Jian had just fired a series of shots. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading, eh? Chapter 2147. Wolf Killer. Everyone present was familiar with this code name. It didn't mean that Wolverine had a lot of influence or status in the world. Instead, a few years ago in Country M's F City, someone spread the news that Wolf Killer had abducted Slaying God's younger brother and killed him. He fed Slaying God's body to the dogs and brought Slaying God's head to make a deal with him. People in the world. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it, eh? Chapter 2148. Lang Sha's entire body swayed as he let out an ear-piercing laughter that sounded like silver bells. That laughter caused everyone present to frown. Yun Jian's eyes darkened. Sure enough, Lang Sha knew the secret of the sandalwood box. On the day before her rebirth, when she handed the high-end imitation sandalwood box to Langsha, who was extremely afraid of her strength, was no longer afraid of her, as if he had received a treasure that could destroy the world. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the original website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2149. Yun Jian was facing the crowd. Behind her, the blazing fire was burning the corpse of her past life until only a handful of ashes was left. She said something that sent chills down their spines in front of the crowd. Yes, who had she, slaying God, been merciful to? No one. She had never been merciful to anyone, including herself. When she left the assassin organization in her early years, she had. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 2150. Bam! Bam bam bam. As soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, she turned around. With her back facing Langsha, who had been kicked to the corner, she looked at Tiger, Mo Wu, the double-faced lady, Ma Zhixiang, Lu Mengyu, and everyone else. As soon as Yun Jian said, "Go to hell," the sound of a grenade explosion filled the air. The sound was deafening. The grenade buried Langsha's last scream. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2151. Yun Jian's smile, coupled with her innate frivolous aura, caused Tiger, double-faced lady, and the others to panic even though she had only said a simple sentence. Tiger, who was familiar with Yun Jian's smile, felt his heart skip a beat. Since the female corpse has been destroyed and the farce has come to an end, Xianyu will bid farewell to everyone here. If fate wills it, we'll meet again. Xianyu immediately sensed that something was wrong with the atmosphere. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2152. Outsiders only knew that Xianyu was a mixed blood from Ri Nation who later joined the underworld of Thailand's black market. However, no one knew that Xianyu was the biological son of Thailand's black market boss. Moreover, why did Xianyu and Milo leave in such a hurry after knowing that Yun Jian was slaying God? Why did Milo break out in cold sweat when he was stopped by Yun Jian? Perhaps it could be traced back to why Milo and Xianyu came to investigate when they heard that slaying God's body was placed in a tomb. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 2153. Therefore, Milo and Xianyu's underlings would directly give up their dignity as men and kneel before Yun Jian. When a man can even give up his dignity and kneel before a woman, there is only one reason. This woman has enough power to make them fear her. The foreigner spoke to Lu Mengyu in Chinese that was not properly pronounced. When his words reached Lu Mengyu and everyone present, everyone was shocked again. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2154. Liang Xiumin blushed when she said this. Obviously, Liang Xiumin had been thinking about this when she was rehearsing with her classmates in the dance classroom, so she was absent-minded. Liang Xiumin didn't even care when the lead dancer, who had always been on bad terms with her, spoke to her in that tone. At that time, Senior Mu Yong didn't wake up, so I ran out by myself. What should I do now? I don't have the face to see anyone. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2155. Liang Xiumin's pupils dilated when she heard the words, "I love you." She stared at Mu Yaoyao in a daze, feeling incredulous for the first time. Senior Mu Yaoyao, whom she had always respected, said that he loved her. "But I already have a boyfriend. You can't treat me like this." Liang Xiumin did not have the time to finish her sentence. Mu Yaoyao grabbed Liang Xiumin's hand and said solemnly, "Don't you see that This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2156. I really miss the feeling of the 7 of us studying in the military academy together in high school. Ever since she met Yunjian, Chu Ning's little mouth had never stopped chattering. Using the words that Jiang Weiwei used to tease Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan, even Chu Xiangnan could not stop Chu Ning from talking. These words made Chu Ning feel a little embarrassed, but Chu Ning really continued to talk about herself. "Oh right, Yunjian, do you know? This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2157. Chu Ning had heard about Yunjian's visit to Marilena's tomb from Yunjian the week before last. Last week, Chu Ning called Yunjian and asked if Yunjian wanted to come to their school to play, but Yunjian declined. Of course, Yunjian also bluntly told her that she wanted to go to Marilena's tomb. So, Chu Ning could only let it go. Because she knew that Yunjian was free to ask for leave from school, she was with Yunjian this week. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2158. The newcomer was none other than Night Spirit, who had accompanied Yunjian to Marilena's tomb. Night Spirit looked young. Her actual age was 19, but she looked like she was 14 or 15. She had the face of a loli and had 2 ponytails. Today, she wore a yellow dress and carried a cute satchel, making her look even more youthful and energetic. Coupled with the fact that Night Spirit was quite good-looking with her soft skin and tender flesh, she quickly attracted everyone's attention. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please head to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 2159. When they heard Night Spirit's recollection of Marilena's tomb, everyone present was in full swing. They were in a state of shock. Night Spirit's recount of the incident caused their hearts to tremble violently, then plunge to a low ebb, and then become extremely astonished. It was just like the ups and downs of a story told by a storyteller. When Night Spirit said the last sentence, everyone present felt as if their hearts had been ruthlessly thumped. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for the reading. A. Chapter 2160. She was the legendary figure who led Team Monarch to the pinnacle, a member of Team Monarch, Slashing God. Jiang Weiwei was not a talkative person. Coming from a military family, she had always been aloof in front of others. Especially in the military school, she had always been aloof and rarely talked to others. Moreover, Jiang Weiwei was quite good-looking. When Yunjian was in her 3rd year of junior high school, Jiang Weiwei's features were exquisite, but her skin was tanned. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 2161. This deep male voice filled with jealousy suddenly rang out without any warning. Chu Ning, who was still hugging the pile of gifts on the floor and joking with Yun Jian, was so shocked that she slid off the bench and onto the floor. This voice is, "Get lost." However, Ce, who had suddenly appeared at the door, spoke without mercy. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.